Well, thank you, Eric. That makes me feel better. Uh,
That's what I'm here for.
yeah, this is like therapy. It's okay. Really, Zach, you were justified.
Welcome to the Greens and Blues 14er podcast. This episode, Zach meanders up a wonderful mountainside. I invoke the blind bard, and we discover a true gem in the southern Sawatch, Taylor Mountain. So, Zach, today we're going to get into your epic journey on Taylor Mountain. But as always, before we get into that, I want to know how you're doing.
I feel like a broken record, Eric. I always say I'm feeling great. Um, I didn't last time. I'm
Well, true.
still mourning the loss of my little dog, Lacey, but all else is well. For those that don't know, I'm a college professor. We're back into the flow of teaching, and or I am at least, and I really enjoy that part of my job. I joke all the time that I teach for free and I get
Yeah,
paid to grade and go to meetings.
that's right.
And when it's in the heart of my job, I feel like I'm doing for free. That's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just got back from teaching a wonderful class with lots of great questions, and it was tons of fun. And I looked up at my watch and I said, wow, it's time to go. So, that is always a good thing. How about you, Eric? How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, this weekend I went on maybe not as epic of a journey, but attempted some 13ers. Actually, so attempted to kind of come full circle on a previous episode where we talked about you going solo on a trio of 10-mile 13ers, Crystal, Pacific, and Atlantic. And so I attempted that. Didn't go quite the way I was hoping it would, but was able to salvage some good memories and some fun hike out of it. So maybe we'll get to that at some point in a future episode. But
Oh, we're
that
gonna
was my
get to
weekend.
that, and if you're not allowed to tease us with that. Yeah, epic
Mice.
adventure, but yeah, we'll just I don't know, we'll pass over that in silence. No, mistakes were made, Eric, and we need to
Oh,
flesh them out here in all their gory detail for everyone.
my stupidity will come out in all of its glory in that one for sure.
Yeah, uh-huh. Well, we're about to see where I made some mistakes here today, so this should be a party.
Uh, well, I'm looking forward to it. So Zach, we're getting into your adventure on Taylor Mountain. Do you want to tell us what drew you to it specifically and kind of what led up to this epic journey?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Taylor Mountain is a 13er. It's 13,500 plus feet in the Sawatch. It is adjacent to Mount Etna, and Mount Etna is a bicentennial peak. It's pretty prominent. It's really distinctive. It's got that nice kind of pyramidal shape
Hmm.
that you see from Monarch Pass and also from other 13ers and 14ers to the north and to the east of it. And Taylor's right next to it. So it's adjacent to Etna. And in mid June, when I wanted to hike it, I thought I could get it and Etna at the same time. I was mistaken on that. So that's why we're doing an episode on Taylor Mountain and not on Taylor and Etna. Um, but yeah, I liked that it was in the Southern Sawatch. I don't hike in the Southern Sawatch a lot.
Hmm.
That upper Arkansas river drainage, I think, is pretty cool. And I liked that it was further south. Like I said, this was in mid-June, and I wanted to go somewhere with less snow. And
Hmm.
so that was one of the draws. And I wanted to go somewhere where I didn't have to beat up my car a lot. So
Hmm.
I was able to get most of those things with this hike. So those were kind of the draws for those that are looking to do this peak at some point. Hopefully you listen to my very detailed route description in a minute because it's important. But the allure of this is that if you do it right, this is a pretty easy hike
Hmm.
or easy as 13ers go,
Hmm.
which is never fully easy. And it's surrounded by some really cool peaks. And you can, if it's a little later in the season, tag on Mount Etna with it. So
Mm,
that's a good draw. So in addition to the things that I just talked about, Summit Post, if you ever use Summit Post as a resource, it talks about ATV access,
mm.
that there's a lot of ATV trails up and around the area. I'll tell you guys in a minute why that's not probably the case right now. That's why other people might want to go there, but ATV access is kind of blocked right now in some pretty fundamental ways.
Okay.
So the allure of this peak is you get to go through a really cool old mining district, great views, and hopefully you can tag on Etna with it. So that was what drew me to it. We'll see where this adventure goes in just a second.
All right. So you're drawn to it. How do you get to it?
So Taylor and Etna are actually really good for having a variety of modes of access.
Mm,
So if you look at trip reports on 14ers.com, you're going to see that a lot of people access it from the town of Garfield, which is just right off the road that goes over Monarch Pass off US 50. There is another way that requires the use of a Forest Service road, which, if you go to the Climbing Coonies website, which I believe is climb13ers.com, they need to have Coonies in there.
they should.
Um, I should. So there is a Forest Service road that goes up to an old quartz mine at about almost at about 12,000 feet. And you can access Taylor's East Ridge from that. You can also access it from Forest Service Road 240, which goes to some old town sites that kind of cuts along the Angel of Shavano trailhead
Okay.
and kind of goes along the north edge of Taylor and Etna, and you can access it from there. So there's a variety of ways. Most of the ways that I've seen have you going from either Garfield or from the quartz mine. And I chose the Garfield route because I didn't know if my Subaru could make it up to the quartz mine. I think it
Sure.
can, but I didn't want to mess with it. So for me, accessibility was I could have ridden a tricycle up to the trailhead, taken a while. Is really easy. Is right off US 50. You literally park like 20 feet off the highway. The quartz mine, a lot of people say that that's Subiable. So on the Subi scale of like 5 being way too hard for a Subaru and 0 being a surface street, it's probably a 3.
Okay.
But I hope to go back to Taylor at some point and confirm that for a reason that I'll shed light on in a minute. If you go to Garfield, there is a road that begins the ascent up towards what will be the route up to Taylor Mountain or Etna Peak if you choose to do that one. I tried to drive my Subaru up that and I got about 100 yards up that road and then it was impassable to my Subaru.
Okay.
I saw a 4Runner do it. Those kinds of vehicles can do it, but that is probably too hard for a Subaru. So
Okay.
I ended up parking down at Garfield, which added an extra 3.5 miles round trip to my day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's good for you. Road
It's yeah, yeah,
road
good,
walking.
good, good
Pretty
prep
actually
for
neat views from the road. Like along the road, there's like somebody's building a yurt along there, and there's
really.
there's all kinds of fun, weird stuff along that Forest Service road. So,
Well, it sounds like
um,
there's some camping options in the area, huh? If there's a yurt there.
if you can get past that one initial block, you could camp along that road probably. As it is, there is a Forest Service campground that is near Monarch Pass. Alas, that's closed.
Oh gosh.
So I ended up having to camp kind of on the road towards Mount Shavano. There's some BLM land out there, and there's some just basically some primitive camping sites. That's kind of almost where US 285 and US 50 meet. It's in
Okay.
the it's northwest of there,
Okay.
and that's where I camped, and then I just drove up that morning.
Okay.
So I would not recommend sleeping next to the highway right off US 50 where you end up parking your car.
Okay. Well, you want to get into it?
Yeah, so okay, so
I'm looking forward to this. This is gonna be fun.
the day got started with me thinking I could drive up that road. Oops, that can't happen.
A
If I
tiny
had been
bit,
able to
but
make it past that first part, I probably could have gotten a little ways up the road, but I couldn't.
yeah.
So just for those of you that are wanting to do some beta on this and maybe figure out, maybe do this hike, when I went to 14ers.com, I looked up the trip reports of our previous guest, Laura Clark, the Great Wild Wanderer, and then a more recent report. The person that posted it was Randy Mack. So I looked up those trip reports, and they both have you walk up this road or drive up this road a little ways. So I walked up this road a ways, and I was basically trying to follow Laura Clark's trip report because Laura's great and she's never led me astray in
She's
any of
very
things.
detailed, and yeah, she's fantastic that way.
Well, this is the one time where I maybe shouldn't have done that. So I walk up this road and I'm looking for this place. So Laura basically at a certain point just cuts north and bushwhacks up into Hoffman Basin.
Okay.
And this is where the story gets interesting. So I normally hike with the National Geographic Trails Illustrated. So you can't see this, but I'm holding it up for Eric.
Yep.
So I was using the Salidas, St. Elmo, and Mount Shavano Trails Illustrated map for this hike. That does not show any roads going up into, so there's a basin in between Taylor Mountain and Mount Etna called Hoffman Park. That does not show any roads going up into that basin. So when I put that together with Laura's trip report, I thought I got a bushwhack into Hoffman Park.
Yeah.
So I actually passed a road off to my right that went to the north. And I thought, that's curious. There's a
Hmm.
road there. So I look at that and I'm like, well, Laura had to bushwhack. The map is not saying there's a road, or it shows another road that goes to another part of the mountain. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I kept walking and I get so far that I start eventually going around the west flank of Mount Etna. So I walk for maybe 2 miles,
Oh no.
two more miles, and I was like, I think I may have gone too far. I actually joined the Colorado Trail for a little bit. And I was like, this is odd.
Wow.
I think I may have gone a little too far on
You
this.
got a real hiking on
Yeah,
that day, then it
I
sounds
got a good
like.
walk in that day.
And that's just the start. Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I've messed this up. So I turn around, and as I turn around, I see that there's a trail that is paralleling the road that I had seen before. And I'm like, that kind of goes through the woods. And it's headed through the woods, kind of angling towards Taylor Mountain. And I thought, I'll take that trail. Turns out it's a leg of the Colorado Trail.
Oh wow.
So I start hiking along that and essentially kind of paralleling, but also ascending the road, the original road that I was on, Forest Service 230. This is where the first mistake got made in this journey, is that I should have just walked back along the road, but instead I tried to do it the cheap way and I tried to cut off some hiking time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking along this trail, but there's a lot of deadfall on it. And I come to a creek crossing and there's so much deadfall, it's kind of choked off the trail. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of logs,
Yep.
a lot of muck along the trail. And so I basically have to crawl on my hands and knees over some logs and stuff. Thankfully, did not fall, just scratched myself up a little bit. And eventually, I'm kind of contouring up on this trail. Eventually, I run into a road. And I'm like, that's curious. That may be the road that I saw. What do I do with this? And on a lark, I was just like, you know what? It's going in the direction I want to go. I guess I'll just take this road. So I turn north and I go north along this road. And sure as whatever, uh, it takes me exactly where I want to be. It takes me up into Hoffman Park.
So,
Which,
but the map and Laura Clark, neither of them referenced this road that you found.
that is correct, my friend. So
Interesting.
the Trails Illustrated does not have that, and Laura's trip report doesn't have it. So after I hiked it, I got out, and now I'm showing Eric. I have a topo map, like an
Mm-hmm.
old school USGS quad. It's the Garfield, Colorado quad. And on that, it does show a road going up into Hoffman Park.
Oh
And that
wow.
is the road that I joined. So I joined this road and I hiked it, and it's quite steep actually. It ascends pretty aggressively up into Hoffman Park, but it's a good road. So I hike up into that. At a certain point, it doesn't become a road anymore, or rather, there's so much deadfall across it that it's impassable to vehicles or
Okay.
to any form of transit. So that takes me eventually all the way up into Hoffman Park. And from there, Laura's trip report and the trip report of Randy Mack are flawless. You want to basically, from Hoffman Park, get up into this cute little basin. Hoffman Park's cool too. It's got some cabins, some old mine works.
Huh.
It's pretty neat. There was, I guess, a really productive gold and silver mine in that area long ago, back when gold and silver were mineable in those quantities in the Swatch. So once you get to Hoffman Park, you want to basically angle north and east into the basin up towards a point you can kind of see. You see to your upper right or to the north and east, Taylor Mountains Ridge kind of coming down past you, kind of cutting off Hoffman Park. And you can see kind of like a goat trail that's been cut across it. It's an old mining trail. And you can see it cut across it, and it's heading southeast. So you want to ascend the basin until you can intersect with that trail, and it will actually pull you away from Taylor Mountain. You'll hike south and east on it until you gain the ridge. And then from there, you hop on the ridge and you're good to go. You just, I say just, I'm going to use air quotes here. You just hike north along Taylor Mountain's very gentle ridge. It's still a grunt. You're still going up a 13er.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a longish ridge, but it's totally navigable. And then you're on the summit. But if I can recount the mistakes that I made here, one was I couldn't get up the road. I thought I could. So that added some distance, but okay, whatever. Two was I missed my turnoff. So I'll tell you guys the end of this story and then we'll kind of rewind it. So I decide to descend. So I get to the summit, blah, blah, blah. I have food. We all know this happens. I descend back kind of the way I came. I get back onto the road in Hoffman Park. And then I hike down this road. And as I'm hiking down the road, I notice two things. One, kind of as I'm getting back towards my vehicle, I notice that this road is impassable. A very large tree has fallen across it. So if anyone is so inclined and wants to try to drive this road up into Hoffman Park, they cannot.
Don't. Yeah.
Don't.
Don't try.
The other thing I notice is that about a half mile after I see that tree, I come onto the road that I had dismissed earlier in the day as some aberrant road that went somewhere else. So if you're hiking along or walking along Forest Service 230 and you see a very prominent road to your right that goes to the north, I think it's 230C, take that.
Take it.
Don't do what Zach did and walk 2 miles past it and then further compound the error and try to go back to it by not going back to it, but by walking across a really poorly maintained trail that parallels the road. What should have been about an 8 mile round trip became about a 12-mile round trip that day.
But it's so hard to know in the moment. Like
Yeah.
you just described multiple roads, a trail, but you were basing your trip on the likelihood of having to bushwhack a lot of it. So
Yeah.
in the moment, you're kind of having to analyze, okay, what am I doing here? What's going to be the best way to get up this mountain? And whenever you can get rid of resistance in the form of taking a road versus bushwhacking, you want to do it. But obviously, you don't want to be going out of your way or going the wrong way. I know someone that's done that. So it's just hard to know what the right decision is going to be in the moment.
Well, thank you, Eric. That makes me feel better. Uh,
That's what I'm here for.
yeah, this is like therapy. It's okay. Really, Zach, you were justified.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the moment, yeah, I was prepared for the bushwhack. And I had a map that was confirming that.
Mm-hmm.
So normally Trails Illustrated does not fail me. In this case, though, it is missing. And this is a road. This is not like it was a road 200 years ago road. This is a if they cut that tree down, you could like drive a Jeep up this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I had every reason to believe that this was a totally legit course of action. In hindsight, for those of you listening, just take the road and it's way easier. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. But yeah, I was in the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to have to bushwhack. And there's a maze of roads because it's a bunch of old mining claims up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get on one. I've done that in the Swatch. I've gotten on a road and I end up going serpentine up and down
Mm-hmm.
and around the mountain, but never up
Oh
it.
yeah. Yep.
So in this case, though, should have just gone up the road. But once you get to the summit, it's great. It's and I'll
All
tell
that
you.
effort.
So my intention was to go from Taylor to Etna.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things colluded against me. First is I wasted some time, or I wouldn't say
Mm.
wasted time. I used up some
You
time.
you enjoyed some time, extra time getting up Taylor.
I savored it just a little
Yeah.
more.
That's it.
And
That's it.
yeah, and so that went against me. And so some clouds were rolling in, and it
Got
actually
it.
did rain a little bit later that day. But I looked over, it was maybe a little too early to do Etna. The ridge between Taylor and Etna was doable, but it was doable without snow, but it looked like soft corniced snow,
Okay.
particularly on the saddle, and I just didn't know the quality of it. And so I decided at that point to just go back home. So I would make multiple suggestions here. One, take the road. Two, go with a good snow report. And I think, or lack of snow report. And if the ridge isn't too snowy, I think the traverse over to Etna is very reasonable. The other
Interesting.
thing that I observed when I was at the top of Taylor was I looked down at the East Ridge and I could see the little parking spot where the quartz mine is, where the Climb 13ers trailhead would be that the climbing coonies advise you use. And boy, did that look a lot easier. Like I even thought about descending that way, and I was like, "No, Zach, follow your own
Yeah.
advice. Descend the way that you know works." But I looked down at that ascent, and I was like, "Man, if you're at that quartz mine, like it's a lark." And
Hmm.
so my big suggestion in this episode is go a little bit later, maybe late June or early July to this area. Drive to the quartz mine if you can. That is described on the Climb 13ers website. And that probably is the best route. And then you could probably tag both peaks and still not have to hike as much as I did doing just one on this particular adventure. So,
That all sounds like great advice. I want to go back to Etna because I'm looking on the 14ers.com topo map here,
mm-hmm.
between Taylor and Etna. So that ridge, that looks like a long ridge, actually. It looks like it would take some time to get between the two. Your opinion, Zach, is it's very doable from like a difficulty standpoint as long as there's no snow
Yeah,
on the route. It looks like maybe it's a little long, but no difficulties, nothing that would prevent just a regular hike to get over to Etna from Taylor.
it looked like perfectly intelligent class two, maybe two plus hiking.
Okay.
The ridge looked very doable with clear snow. And obviously, your commitment anytime you're doing an extra peak like that's a
Mm,
little higher.
yep.
So, you got to make sure you've got good views to the west where the storms are going to come from. So, if you've got a clear window, I think that's doable. And in fact, in a year to 5 years, I'm going to return and I'm going to do it the way I'm saying I should do it now. And I'm going to go up Taylor and then up Etna. And I think that's probably the best. And then you'll have to go back over Etna if you choose that route. So, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a long traverse. There's not a giant tower
Like big tower in the
or
way or anything.
class four up climb or something like that is easily noticeable from the traverse.
Okay. I got one more question on Etna. I don't want to belabor the Etna part of this, but
No,
are you familiar with a way to ascend Etna without Taylor? Is there a route that's fairly doable that way?
if you look on 14ers.com, probably the most popular route is to go up the Etna Couloir. And that is a way to do it without ascending Taylor. You can go up the south ridge of Etna as well. That is a popular descent route. A lot of people make a loop. They go up Taylor and then traverse across to Etna and then down the south ridge of Etna. That looks very hiked off and scree filled, but
Okay.
doable. I say that not having ascended it, but most people that do Etna without Taylor are going to do it as a snow climb with
Oh, got
with the
it.
couloir involved.
Got it.
So
Okay. That makes
that's
sense.
that's a way to do it like that. I tend to think that yeah, couloir climbs probably safer than scree climbs if the
Mm,
snow is good.
yep.
But then that requires a certain additional layer of ability and technique,
Ability and gear and
yeah,
yeah, all that
stuff,
stuff.
things.
All right, Zach. So you've summited Taylor. Was it everything that you thought that it would be when you're at the summit?
The summit was great. In hindsight, the hike was really cool. If I had done it right, it would have been easier and cooler. Hoffman Park is really neat. It's kind of a lush little valley.
Hmm.
The ridge line going up to Taylor has some really great views of the Sawatch to the east, Chavano and Tabawatch.
Mm-hmm.
You can see Mount White and Antero. And then when you get to the top, you got some pretty darn good views. You're looking north into the Sawatch, which is a pretty expansive mountain range. So I really enjoyed the views from the top and everything that had to offer. So it was pretty rewarding. I liked it. And the views over to Etna are really cool too. The pictures that I have of Etna are great.
Mm,
Wish I'd been able to do it, but on its own, still very rewarding hike. A lot of fun.
that's awesome. So what was for lunch?
I don't know why, but it was really cold at the summit.
Hmm.
And I got to the summit and I took some pictures and I rested for a couple minutes and I was like, man, I am cold. I need to
In
move.
June.
In June. Yeah.
Oh.
It was overcast because some clouds were moving in.
Hmm.
So I didn't eat a lot. I think I had one of my I buy these Target Good and Gather cashew
Oh,
nut
yeah.
chocolate chip cookie dough bars. I think I had one of those and then I went back down. I had my gloves on, my hat on, and everything. So I didn't stop and, have a salami lunch or anything like that, like I like.
Bask
But
in the sunlight that wasn't
yeah,
there.
I had done that a few weeks earlier on Spanish Peak, but I didn't get to do it this time. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was really great views. And then the descent is great because you're still up, you're on that ridge for quite a while.
Okay. Well, let's get into some of your ratings for this. So,
Yes.
how would you rate the overall difficulty of everything that you did?
If you do it the right way,
That's not what I asked.
um, if you do it the wrong way, in terms of difficult, look, it's going to be a class two.
Yeah.
It's just a standard. I say standard 13er hike. Where this gets interesting is grunt.
Mm.
If you do it the way I did it, with the wanderings of Odysseus involved, um, then we're talking a little bit higher on the effortlty factor,
Oh gosh.
maybe a 3.5. If you do it the right way, now the road is consistently steep and your ascent up to Taylor is steep. So you're going to
Mhm.
put in some work. And that may be a 2.5 out of 5. But yeah, if you do it the wrong way, maybe a 3.5. But I got to see some nice segments of the Colorado Trail. So there's that,
No,
you
there
know.
you go. I'm hoping you didn't get passed by any trail runners on the Colorado
I
Trail, did you?
This is another nice feature of this. At least when I was there, it was on a Wednesday. I had the place to myself.
There you go.
Um, there were some people going to Boss Lake that were on the Boss Lake Trail because the trailhead for Boss Lake and for this hike are the same trailhead right off of Monarch Pass. In fact, you're going to hike towards Boss Lake for about a mile and a quarter before you get to the road that you should take.
Okay.
So I did see one couple hiking up towards Boss Lake, but no one was in Hoffman Park. And when I signed there was a summit register. I mean, it's a piece of paper and a peanut can or something
Yeah.
on Taylor Mountain. And I was the first person that had been up it in probably 2 weeks. So,
Oh, wow.
I mean, the reward here is solitude, right?
Mm.
Solitude and a really pretty spot that probably isn't visited very often. I think the fact that it's kind of a maze of roads has a little something to do with that.
Mhm.
So, and it being mid-June probably had something to do with that too. So, in
Yeah.
terms of effort, do it the right way and you're good to go. Do it the wrong way and hey, maybe you burn a few extra calories that day. So,
That's there you go. Yeah, get a little more adventure out of it then maybe. And being mid-June, I'm assuming from the summit of Taylor, you probably, even if you could see well to the summits of Chavano and Tabawash, I'm sure no one was there because those are probably snowed out still and more difficult to get to at that time of year, I'm gonna guess.
I didn't see dots on other summits, and sometimes that time of year you can see a few other dots on the summits. They were still pretty snowy. I was looking at my pictures
Yeah.
again last night, and so there was still, especially the traverse between Chavano and Tabawatch, that always
Hmm.
holds a little bit of snow. It
Yep.
looked a little snowy from where I
Okay.
was at, but
All right. So effort, grunt, how about on the beauty scale? You alluded to the beauty of the views, but what would you rate the views from Taylor's summit?
I'm gonna go 7 out of 10 on this.
Okay.
I mean, if we ever drop below a five, like I don't know if we hiked a mountain.
I was gonna say that's
Like
probably not.
that actually, maybe, when you and I summited San Luis Peak, which we need to do an
Oh
episode on
well,
at some point, and
those
you
weather
literally couldn't
dependent.
see anything,
Yeah.
right? Is fogged in. But in this case, the views are good. They're not like sunshine and red cloud-esque. You're not
Mhm.
surrounded by mountains. You can see some civilization from here. And the peaks of the Sawatch are a little more gentle. They're not quite as spectacular as, say, those 9 out of 10 views from Handy's and Sunshine and Red Cloud and Uncompahgre. But yeah, a day in the mountains is a good day.
That's I got an amen for that.
Yeah.
Well, here's my favorite segment
Hmm.
that we always have when we do a mountain review.
The what mistakes did Zach make segment?
No, that's second place. No, no, it's not. No. No, if Taylor Mountain was a song, Zach, what song would it be?
You know, this has nothing to do with Taylor Mountain and everything to do with my particular history. And maybe it's just my way of evangelizing an artist that I like. But every time I drive to the Southern Sawatch for years, for some reason, I'm a big fan of a musician. Her name is Samantha Fish. I've forced Eric to listen to her music. She's a tremendous blues artist, great guitarist.
No, we talked about her a bunch. Yep.
Yeah. Every time I find myself in the Southern Sawatch for some reason, she like pops up on my playlist.
Hmm.
And I've gotten to where I associate that part of the world with just her music. I don't know why. There's nothing intrinsically like Southern Sawatch about what Sam Fish does. But if anyone listens to this and takes our musical advice in any way, go to YouTube and look up a live version of Samantha Fish doing I Put a Spell on You, which is an old,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
great kind of, it's, a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival covered it. Forget who the original artist was that did I Put a Spell on You.
The original gets a little bit frightening with how passionate he sings it. I can't
Yeah,
remember who.
Screamin' Jay Hopkins.
Screaming Jay Hawkins. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a good old standard.
yeah, she absolutely kills it. It's so good. She's so good on it. So there is nothing I put a spell on you about Taylor Mountain. I could have had a song about like wandering.
Oh yeah.
I thought about doing that and I was like, no, I'm just going to go with the song that I associate with this part of the world or the artist that I associate with it. But if I can make a believer out of any one of you that Samantha Fish is absolutely awesome. It's that song where she just absolutely kills it. So
That's
uh,
awesome.
that would be my song for Taylor Mountain.
I like it. Well, now I'm gonna have to look up her version of "I Put a Spell on You" because that is an old classic, and I'd love to hear her belt that out.
Eric, you know how like other podcasts have show notes?
Yeah.
I'm giving you something to do because I don't do any of this. Hey, Eric, design a website, post our podcast to it, and then do show notes because then we could include such a thing. But since we're going low budget on this one, just go to YouTube and find it.
You can find it easily enough. She's got plenty of presence on social, so you'll be
Yeah.
able to find her. Well, what about dinner?
So the town of Garfield does not offer anything in the way of meal selection. Coming from the east, I ate in Salida.
Yeah.
So today's recommendation on the food corner is tacos El Tapatio in Salida.
Oh, there you
Um,
go.
they are reliable for me. Their fajitas are muy bueno.
Mm.
They give you nice, good sized portions of fajitas and refried beans and rice, a never ending basket of chips. Salsa could stand to be a little hotter for this New Mexican, but um, I'm going to recommend Tacos El Tapatio. I think that's a really nice little spot. I know there's a ton of places in Salida. There's like 5 Mexican food places in Salida alone. There's a good pizza place there that has gluten-free pizzas. I'm not recalling the name of it, but
Oh, wow.
it's yeah, not dairy-free though, dude.
Well,
Um, can't have it all.
can't have it all, I
Um,
guess.
but I'm gonna go with Tacos El Tapatio, and then maybe one time I'll get to do another Salida food recommendation. But it's my winner for the day. People there are really nice, locally owned business.
Sounds like you've been there before too, huh?
When I find a place that works, I kind of keep going back because
Yeah, why not?
um, someone on my diet where I don't eat wheat or dairy, and I can find something that's good and filling and that doesn't dehydrate me or make me feel not good the next day, that's always a win. So there are some restaurants that shall remain nameless that do not meet that cutoff, just so people know. Looking at you, restaurant in Southern Colorado, made me feel not good.
You're not going to name. Well, yeah, gluten and dairy free is always a bit easier at Mexican restaurants than many others. So yeah, we tend to go that direction too. So,
Yeah, especially fajitas.
yep,
Yeah, so I would seriously recommend that and maybe camping nearby and heading up.
there you go. Well, I like it, Zach. Do you have anything else you want to add in your generous recount of Taylor Mountain?
I have 3 things that I want to say here. One is that Eric teased us at the beginning of this episode of some mistakes he made. And since I have performed my proper confessional here, we can look forward to an episode where he talks about his tale of woe
Oh
on a future
boy,
episode.
that's going to be a dumpster fire.
Second thing I want to say is do as I say, not as I do. Um, I really think you guys should just go to the road, go up the road and go up the flipping mountain and you probably could, maybe be back in town by lunch if you
We've
did it
said
the
that
right way.
before, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take the
Um,
flipping road.
and third, to echo the immortal words of Jerry Roach, it is a beautiful peak climate.
There you
So,
go.
yeah, that's all I got. Eric, if our listeners want to reach out to us, or if you have a tale of woe that you would like to recount to us, perhaps in verse poetic form, like the Greeks, where can we be reached?
Well, Zach, if Homer ever hikes in Colorado and wants to send his route descriptions to us, like you just described, I
I'm not going to buy those. Homer was blind.
don't think I knew that. Interesting.
I mean, we don't really know who Homer was. Was Homer even a person? Was it one person? Was it four? Was it a collective? We don't know. But
I didn't realize that either.
that was the myth that got built up, is that he was the blind bard who finally
Interesting.
wrote these things down.
Like the Banksy of Greek mythology, huh? Just no one knows who it is, huh?
Yeah, he's kind of mysterious.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot
Well,
of debate over who he really was.
I'll have to look into that because that's kind of fascinating. But yeah, so yeah, if you are Homer or if you're not, you can email us at greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. You can find our Facebook group. You can find our YouTube channel. You can get a hold of Zach at NM Hikerperson on X. I'm probably missing something. What am I missing, Zach? How else can they get a hold of us?
The bat signal.
Oh, if you have a bat signal, instead of calling us on it, send it to Norman, Oklahoma. That would be
Yeah,
pretty cool to see that from there.
that'd be pretty neat. And our next episode marks our 1 year anniversary.
Oh man.
So Eric and I have big things planned for our 1 year anniversary episode. We're gonna blow this thing up.
Oh
Uh,
man. You've been putting up with my guff for a whole year, and you're gonna have to do it for at least one more episode. So that'll be
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
fun.
And I'm on a 1 year contract, and then, we go up for negotiations. I'm going to be a free agent here.
Oh man. No, don't say that. I
All
don't
the
want to hear
other
that.
14er hiking podcasts are going to want to pick me up on the waiver wire.
That's
Uh,
I no, no, I'm gonna sign you to your second contract, a long-term deal for this one.
Long-term extension.
That's right.
Do an NBA a max contract here.
That's yeah, you can get your super max even if
Yeah,
the
right. Because
timing
I'm
is right.
staying with the same team.
That's right.
I think we need to go with that.
There you go. I like it.
Well, thank you for listening to our shenanigans and our tales of travail on the great mountains of Colorado. And I hope some of you enjoy Taylor Mountain in the near future.